Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to So What? We are in full Halloween mode now that it is October. So I have some fun tutorials I'm going to share with you today for some easy Halloween costume ideas for people of all ages. So whether you have a little one to sew for, or you want to get festive your own self, these costumes will work for you or for them. Excuse me a moment while I turn off my device, which I thought was turned off. All right, before we get into it today, first off, let me know where you're watching from. Say hello in the comments and in the live chat. This is also your place to put your questions for me today so I can address them throughout. And this is how we communicate with each other as well. So hi, Betsy. Hi, Laura. Thanks for chiming in on the live chat. As long as you do so and you're somehow engaging with me here today, giving me those emojis, adding your questions and comments into the chat, those types of things, you will be automatically eligible to win today's gift from Sulky, which is our Halloween Potions Machine Embroidery Palette. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a little bit. But first off, I want to make sure everybody is registered for our 2023 Mystery Quilt Along. This actually starts on Friday, this Friday, October 6th. The first tutorial for the quilt along will drop. That means that you will get notified in your email box that the first lesson is available for viewing, and you will get the full video tutorial for the first part of the quilt along, the first pattern that you need to create your first block for the quilt, and tons of other ancillary products and ways to communicate with me and with the instructor and with Sulky support staff. And this is going to be a really, really fun quilt along where you will get to learn new techniques and you can tackle a quilt from start to finish over the course of the month of October. So it's a really great way to ease yourself into the entire quilt pattern without getting totally overwhelmed with the entire thing right off the bat. So I think it's going to be really fun. I recognize some of your names have registered for the quilt along already, so that's awesome. And I can't wait to see how things progress and how you guys like this type of format for learning a pattern, learning something new, and learning directly from the pattern designer herself. So Ashley Huff, who you might recognize her name from the National Quilters Circle, National Sewing Circle. She's written for a number of sewing and quilting publications over the years as well. She's a really, really great quilt designer, pattern designer, and just a great educator overall. She breaks things up into really manageable chunks, and she just makes it seem so effortless while you're working your way through the quilt along. So no better way to learn a new pattern than from the person who designed it, in my opinion. So this is going to start this Friday. Make sure that you're registered for the quilt along so that you get notified. Every Friday in October, there will be a new block to learn for the quilt. And then the last Friday in October, you will assemble the quilt top. So make sure that you're registered. I put a link to the registration in the description of today's post, which is where you're going to see links for everything that I'm talking about today. If you're not seeing the entire description, make sure to hit the See More or More button. As long as you click that, then the whole description will pop out. You'll see all the links to everything that I'm talking about today, including how to register for the Mystery Quilt Along. We, of course, also have a kit for the Mystery Quilt Along. If you're interested in that, in the kit, we do have a very small number of kits still available for the quilt along. You will get all the fabrics for the entire quilt top, as well as 3 different Sulky threads that you will learn how and when to use throughout the making of the quilt. So this is a really great deal as well. It is on sale. I believe it goes off sale when the quilt along completes. But again, we have very, very few kits still available. So if you're thinking about it and you want to have all the quilt's yardage on hand when you're making the quilt, then I highly suggest grab up the kit. You'll know which colors to use where and where to place your focal print for all of the blocks. And you're sure to have a really stunning piece of art when you are complete. We also have a very limited number of supply roll-up sew-along kits left. I went through this project on last week's Sew What, so if you missed that, you can head on over to our YouTube page or just scroll through the Sulky Facebook page and you can see last week's tutorial where I showed you how this sewing supply roll-up project comes together. And this makes a really great holiday gift or gift for anybody throughout the year because not only can you use it to store your sewing supplies, but you can use it to store art supplies, to store makeup supplies, things like that. It's really great for travel because you can roll it up and take it with you on the go, or you can keep it unrolled and just have it next to you, next to your sewing machine, or, on your bathroom counter, that type of thing, and have all of your supplies at hand. So this kit, we have very few left. With purchase of the kit, you get access to the full video sew along and, of course, the pattern that you need to create the project. So this is an all-in-one purchase deal at a really great sale price as well. So I just wanted to let you know, if you watched last week but didn't buy the kit for this one, we have a limited number of these still available too. All right, and this is what the kit looks like for that project. You get fabric, you get batting, you get a little bit of fold over elastic, of course some sulky thread, and some hardware for the finished project. All right, so as I mentioned, we are in full Halloween mode, of course. I mean, I've been in Halloween mode, I think, since August. If you are a loyal Sew What follower, then you are well aware that I started decorating for Halloween quite a while ago. I was just pretty excited for it. I love sewing for Halloween. All right, and we have amazing deals at sulky.com for Halloween and fall. All right, hold on just a moment. We may be having some technical difficulties on the Sulky site. They just informed me. So if you're having difficulties, just keep trying. And of course, we will work on that behind the scenes while we are talking here on Sew What. But at any rate, we've got Halloween and fall deals up at sulky.com, up to 50% off select products. So I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to some of my favorites that are up there because you can get them at a screaming deal right now. So if you're looking at that quilt along kit, you're looking at that sew along kit, and you want to bump yourself up to that free shipping threshold for anything that we're talking about today, you might want to grab up some of these deals that are at just crazy, crazy prices right now. First off, here's that Halloween Potions machine embroidery collection that I was talking about. And this includes 10 spools of sulky rayon thread and a design collection to create these in the hoop Halloween Potions patches. These are meant to be freestanding patches that you create in the hoop of your embroidery machine. You can also use them just as flat designs on things as well. You simply would stitch it out without the steps to make them freestanding. So this comes with an instructional PDF color chart that tells you when and where to sort of remove the hoop, cut away your fabric, things like that. So these patches have a fabric base and they are sewn on either Sulky Super Solvy, Sulky Ultra Solvy, or you can also use Sulky Fabra Solvy to create these freestanding patches. So just some ideas for this, since this is today's giveaway for one lucky viewer who is watching, commenting, all those good things. Also, be sure that you've liked the Sulky Facebook page or you've subscribed to our YouTube channel if you are watching there, because that's how I can contact you if you are the winner of today's gift. All right, so this is the gift, and where's my pictures for what to do with the gift? Hold, please. I'm a little out of order. So I made some of these, and I created a little s'mores bar. So I basically found these really cool vases, if you will, or vessels at Target, of all places. Love Target. And I thought they would be great for the s'mores bar that I was creating for my kids. They were having a little party with some friends and a Halloween movie for a sleepover. And so I created, some little vessels that had, of course, the chocolate bars, the graham crackers, and the marshmallows. So then I added these cute little freestanding patches as labels for the s'mores bar. So we've got bat breath, black cat hisses, and then on the marshmallow one, it says goblin goo. So that was just kind of fun and added to, the festivities, and was a little, conversation starter, if you will, for the little party. So these are really cute to use this way. You can also add them to like your spices if you put, spices over your oven in a little spice rack or something like that. You can add it to a candle and have that, maybe in your bathroom or what have you for the holidays. And they're just really cute. You can use them for a lot of different things. There's also one that says witch wine. I used that as a teacher gift and put it over the top of a wine label. And I just used double-sided little adhesive sticky tape on the back of the patch and put it right there on the wine bottle. And that made a really cute festive little gift. So lots of different ways, you can use these. Again, here is an overview of all of the designs that come with that Halloween Potions machine embroidery palette. We also sell the design collection separately, but if you grab up the palette, you also get the 10 thread spools that you need to create the patches. And since they are sewn onto a fabric base, they still have a lot of thread work on top. So the background is all thread as well. There's the addition of thread that really makes the patch, stand freely or stand alone, if you will. All right, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can really see all the designs that you get. So we've got zombie zits, bat breath, black cat hisses. There's the little witch wine that I was talking about, the spooky spices, and the goblin goo. So these come in a couple of different sizes, 3 sizes actually, for different hooping options. So if you only have a 4x4 hoop, you can create the 4x4 size. There's also a 5x7 size and then a really large size that fits in a 6x10 or larger hoop. So you can make, pretty large freestanding patches if you want to make different kinds of sort of signs, or, place cards, or if you're having a Halloween buffet, you could use these to kind of label the foods on your buffet line, and just really, really cute ideas. All right, so I also wanted to mention that for the fabric base for these patches, you want something really sturdy and ideally something that doesn't fray. So what I put together here is a pack of Twilly. And I know some of you are going, what? What is Twilly? You can also use Sulky Felty as the base for these. But Sulky Twilly is brand new, and we only have it available in this starter pack. It comes in a lot of different colors, but right now we have this pack that coordinates directly with the Halloween Potions palette. So Twilly is a heavyweight twill fabric that has a coating on the back of it. It already has a stabilizer applied. So when you cut it out, when you're making your patch in the hoop, it does not fray. Because it has that coating already fused to the back of it, it really makes your edges nice and stable. Now you're going to be adding the satin stitches in the hoop that cover the entire edge. So if there's a tiny bit of fraying, or if, one fiber or something frays off of it, it's going to be totally concealed anyway by the satin stitches. But you still don't want to use something like a quilting cotton fabric. That's going to be much too lightweight to support all of the dense stitches for the patches. So I would go with something like a canvas, and maybe with the canvas you want to apply some fusible web to the back of it, like some Sulky Perfect applique. And by fusing that fusible web, again, you're going to give yourself a much cleaner edge when you cut the patch away during the stitch out. Not the patch, but the excess patch fabric. So a canvas, a twilly. This twilly pack is on sale right now for only $5.99 for our Halloween sale. So if you're grabbing up that Halloween Potions palette or the Halloween Potions machine embroidery collection, you'll want to add this pack of twilly to your cart, because then you will have this great sturdy fabric to use as a base for all of those patches for only $5.99. So great, great deal. Add that to your purchase, and it'll just be a no-brainer for what fabric to use for each patch, because they're all color-coded according to the design collection. So as you can see, you've got your tan color for the back of some of these. You have a dark gray that you could use for zombie zits. You have a dark green you could use. All kinds of options to create your patches. All right, so I just wanted to be sure everybody was aware, because that's a great deal. The palette is also on sale, so you might as well grab up the palette rather than grabbing up the design collection, especially when it's on that sale price, because it's like you're getting, a spool or two of thread for free and the designs for free when you grab the collection itself. All right, some other really great things that are on sale right now are Candy Corn Clutch in the Hoop embroidery project. This kit is on sale as part of the major Halloween and fall sale. I think it's something like $30. You get all the felty that you need to create your pouches, all the thread that you need, the zippers, the stabilizer. I mean, you're good to go. And I think they're telling me we have very few of these left. There's 8 or 9 of these kits available. So even if you made one during our Candy Corn webcast last year, you might want to grab up another kit, make them again for this Halloween season, because at this special price, once these kits are gone, they're gone. And with purchase of this kit, you also get the embroidery files that you need to create this entirely in the hoop. And it has that adorable little candy corn charm that goes on the zipper, or you could use it as earrings. I made a pair of earrings last year using that design, and they were super, super cute and very festive. All right, Anita says, I bought the candy corn clutch last year, and it is the best. I even found molded candy corn zipper pulls if I wanted to make more. You should all get it. Thank you, Anita. That's a really great testimonial. I appreciate it. Tammy says the candy corn is adorable. Love it. All right. Anita's also talking about the Witches In behind me and Witches Out machine embroidery collection. And that is right here for you to see. This is an in the hoop reversible wall hanger. So one side says the witch is in and the other side says the witch is out. Let's see. Anita says, I have not stitched it closed. I'm going to stuff it a little as you suggested and make it into a cute little pillow, I assume. Or you could just add a little bit of stuffing and give it a little bit of loft. But it's so cute. The witch is either in or out, depending on the size that you're displaying on your wall or on your front door. And this palette, I believe there's only 10 left, last I checked, of this palette as well. Let's see. We are having some technical difficulties at sulky.com, so I apologize for that. There's some messages in the chat for you as well. They are working on that as quickly as possible. Apparently the site is working. It's just our search functionality is compromised in some way, so we're working on that. So just keep a running tally of things that you want to add to your cart here for this amazing sale that we're having. And we'll get to today's tutorial as long as we're not having... Oh, Sharon says, I am starting the witches in and out today. Perfect. Leslie wants to know, can you use Felty? I assume you're talking about the witch project. You could use Felty for that. I do want to caution that it will be very bulky. So when you're turning it right side out, you might have some extra felty bulk along your seam line because you've got your front design, your back design, your stiffy stabilizer in between, and a layer of batting that we're using for the front and back. So if you decide to use Felty for the project, I would omit the batting that I've suggested that you add to the front and back just to make it, have a little more quilty feel to it. And then it hangs really nice and has a little bit more body to it. So if you are going to use the Felty, I would just omit the batting on the project, make your front design, make your back design, and add that together. All right, so just be, I haven't tried it in Felty, but I assume you could do so just taking a few precautions. All right. Linda says, candy corn is my favorite Halloween treat. I know that this really divides people, right? I mean, in addition to things that are, politically driven, I think candy corn really divides people. You either love it or you absolutely hate it. All right, so I appreciate you saying you love the candy corn. So you should definitely make the candy corn pouches. So cute. And what a great gift idea for little ones heading out to Halloween. Again, we have very few of these left. And I guess since we're having issues on the Sulky site, you'll have to, be on there like you're getting concert tickets. And I hope that everybody who wants one of these kits can get one because, again, very few of those available. All right, let's get into today's project. And hopefully, by the time we get through today, we will have the site up and running and you can grab up all those things and add them to your cart for the big sale. So last week I talked about creating this amazing costume. I have it over here for my daughter. It is a snake costume and it gets tacked around your body on the clothes that you're wearing. And you keep coiling it around yourself. It's a little awkward to do while I'm sitting, but you coil it around yourself as if the snake is squeezing you, right? So that costume was a big hit on the Sulky blog, and it really made me think about other ways to create costumes using maybe things we already have on hand, because after all, I think Halloween costumes should always be crafty or have a little bit of sewn or a crafty element to it. There have been times where my kids have really, really wanted to be like a pop culture icon or a superhero. And, I've just had to break down and purchase the costume. as much as it hurts me inside. But then I always put a twist on it, or I make the mask, or I make the treat bag to go along with it. Something has to be homemade, in my opinion, for Halloween. So there was one year where I made my son a spider costume, and I used socks to make the spider legs for the costume. And not only did he love it so much because all the legs were movable, I'll show you a picture in a second, but my girls, when they, got to be the size for that costume, they would fight over it. They would want to wear it when it wasn't Halloween because it was so fun. So here is my son in the spider costume. Now this was, 10 years ago. I think he was 2 or 3 when he wore this costume. I made the hat. I made everything. So the 6 legs, obviously his arms are the 7th and 8th spider leg, but the 6 legs are a pack of black tube socks. You stuff them with fiberfill, and then I tucked the ends of the socks, where they would be open. I tucked those into a patch that I made for the back of his black sweatshirt. And I stuffed the patch with a little bit more fiberfill. So it was like the bump of, the back of the spider. And I just tucked the legs inside and sewed around the circle to attach all the little spider legs within the little, patch on the back of the sweatshirt. And then I took some black yarn, tied it around all the legs, and then attached it to the cuffs of the sweatshirt so that when he moved his arms, all of the spider legs moved together. And you could kind of adjust the legs as well to make sure that they were a little bit more equidistant, things like that. This costume has really stood the test of time. I still have it, even though it's so small on my girls now. Definitely my son could never get in it at all. But he just got so many compliments. Everyone said, "There's no way you made this." I'm like, "Oh, it was the easiest costume I think I've ever made because I started with these tube socks." All right. So then, my daughter wanted this snake costume. We figured out how to make it using a pair of leggings, cutting the leggings apart, sewing the 2 legs together, and making the snake, which I showed you, right? So then, the wheels started turning because my other daughter said, "I think it would be really fun to be an octopus for Halloween." Okay, so I'm thinking to myself, of course, let's try to make an octopus costume without using a pattern, without spending a fortune on all the fabrics, right? Because, if you look at some octopus costumes out there, it's this whole, headpiece and fleece and huge long octopus tails, right? Also, with The Little Mermaid being, a trending kind of movie this year, there's a lot of Ursula costumes out there as well that, work as octopus costumes, obviously. So I thought, let's try to make our homemade version of an octopus costume, again, using the sock idea. So we kind of take the sock idea that we used for the spider costume, but we turn that into an octopus costume. All right. So I'll show you the finished result and then I'll show you how I did it. So here's our octopus costume. It's a little heavy, but it still stays up because I found this skirt. And if you want links for the skirt, the top, the, buttons, the fiber fill, the sulky items, all of that is on the Sulky blog at blog.sulky.com. And it's going to be the first blog post that you see because that was posted just yesterday. So if you want to find all the links for that, and we can also put some in the chat here. But at any rate, I found this skirt super cheap on Amazon, and it has a really wide elastic waistband. Now, if you're making this for a boy, or you're making this for an older person, like I want to wear this costume, it's so cool, then I highly suggest starting with something with an elastic waist, whether it's elastic waist pants, an elastic waist skirt, elastic waist shorts, to be the base of the octopus costume. You can also use a sweatshirt, something that's more heavyweight that has a cuff on the bottom, and you can sew all your octopus tentacles to the bottom edge of the sweatshirt. Just tuck your sock underneath the cuff and sew them around after basting them. Okay, so you don't have to put these on pants if you're worried about, maybe the pants will fall down because of the, weight of the octopus tentacles. You could put them on the bottom of a sweatshirt, and then you're free to wear whatever you would like on the bottom when you wear it out for trick-or-treating or to a costume party or what have you. But this skirt was really great as the base because it has a thick waistband with a thick piece of elastic in it. You can also use your sewing talents and by all means create a heavy-duty elastic waistband, stitch your tentacles to the cuff of the waistband, and just put the waistband over the top of your existing pants. You don't even have to, create an entire skirt or create an entire pair of pants. You can literally just create that elastic casing, put your elastic inside, sew it up, add your tentacles, and it's kind of like an octopus belt. Is everybody with me? So lots of different ways you can attach your tentacles. I'll show you how to make the tentacles, or how I did, and then you can choose, add it to an existing skirt or pants, add it to a sweatshirt, or just make sort of an elastic belt, if you will, to attach your tentacles to. So if you have a little one who wants to be Ursula or wants to be a Pirates of the Caribbean octopus type character, you could use the same sort of method and just adapt it to that particular character or costume. All right, so we're going to start by gathering so many buttons. So many buttons. I think maybe I used about 20 or so buttons per tentacle. The buttons, of course, are acting as our tentacle suckers. So here's where you can use all of one color of button. You can dive into your button stash and use an array of colors. You can go with a coordinating or contrasting color theme for the tentacles. I went a little bit contrasting to my blue sock color, and I went with teal and turquoise and black buttons. I happen to have some button bags where these colors were already they were already color coded, if you will. So it made it really easy for me to just grab these bags of buttons that I already had on hand and sort of start mixing and matching them together for each tentacle. To attach the buttons, I used sulky 50 weight cotton thread. You could also use 40 weight poly deco thread, but for the 50 weight thread, I used 2 strands to make sure they were nice and secure. After sewing each button, you could, in addition, use a little dab of craft glue on the top of the button after you sew it to, your fabric tubes, or your sock tubes rather, just for additional security. Because I'll tell you what, after my daughter put this on, she immediately started doing the twist to watch the little tentacles go up and down, and I will admit I lost a couple buttons. Okay, now that might be because I have been sewing buttons on tentacles for at least 6 days now. Not straight, but, taking breaks and whatnot. So at any rate, it's of no fault to the thread. It is all operator error. But add a little dab of permanent craft glue, fabric glue, even a little dab of super glue right after you sew each button, just for some additional security. But this is a fabulously strong thread, and you can travel with the thread to stitch each button. And I totally eyeballed it. But before we get to the button sewing, we've got to make sure that our tube sock does not have this little L shape. We don't want the little heel portion of the sock to stick out on the octopus. We also want to shape the sock a little bit so that it doesn't have a round end. We want it a little bit pointy for our octopus tentacles. So we've got to shape up the sock a little bit. When you start with a tube sock, and I was pleasantly surprised to find a lot of different colors of tube socks. Back in the day when I made that spider costume, you could pretty much find like white and black readily available. But you can look for the athletic socks. They have a lot of team colors for things like soccer and baseball. I got a pack of, I think 10 of these blue athletic socks. Relatively inexpensively. I mean, if I were to buy this costume, I don't even know what it would cost. But I think with all of the materials here, it was maybe $30 total. And that included the top and the skirt as well. So at any rate, here we go. Bonnie is saying you should have used your machine to sew on all those buttons. Well, getting into the tube and using my machine, I don't know. I thought it was better to hand sew them because I didn't know how I was going to get into that tube. But I suppose you could deconstruct your sock, or you could even make this out of fabric yardage, sew on your buttons before you sew up the tube. Lots of different options. But here we go, working with socks. So I used my serger to shape up my sock, but you certainly can use your standard sewing machine if you don't have a serger. Whenever I'm working with something stretchy, like a sock material or a knit, I always pull out my serger because it's just going to handle those types of fabrics so much better and make it so much faster. So I use my serger, but again, if you're using a standard sewing machine, you could just set it for a stretch stitch. You might need to adjust your presser foot pressure a little bit because my sock at least was a little bit bulky. It's funny, I was almost going to say sulky, a bulky sock at any rate. So I set my serger for a 4-thread overlock stitch. And first I just stitched right across the heel. So I moved all the fabric. I'm trying to find the sock that I had right here. Bear with me a moment because it's on the floor. It fell. All right, so we're going to turn the sock. It's much easier if I just show you. We're going to turn the sock inside out. And you take the heel portion of the sock and place it right sides together. And my heel is like color coded, so it makes it so easy to just follow along that, light blue line to just serge it right off. So you want to make sure to pull that excess sock fabric away. And you can place some pins if you want, but just line up the line of that heel on both sides, and then you're just going to serge it right off. Now, if you're using your regular sewing machine, just sew right inside of that heel line and then trim it away when you're done sewing. That will straighten up your tentacle so it's not L-shaped. Unless you would like it to be L-shaped, it's entirely up to you. But I wanted straight tentacles, and then actually you can end up shaping them a little bit so they all look a little bit different using your fiber fill when you stuff it. So trim off that heel, make your sock straight, and then we've got to shape the toe portion of the sock. So what I did was I just sketched a little bit of a V with a little bit rounded point. You could certainly do a more harsh point, depending on what you want your tentacles to look like. I just sketched it out a little bit so I could follow along that line with my serger. And another luxury of using the serger is that it's going to trim away that excess fabric for you, so you don't have to trim along that line before you sew it. I also recommend, if you're using a regular sewing machine, to sew along that line before you trim your sock fabric away. It just allows you to have a more stable surface for your sewing. Once you cut that, then you've got to pin it, then you've got to make sure that both sides match up, and then you have to add seam allowance, all these types of things. If you sew it first and then trim it, it's just much easier. All right, so then I took it to my serger, and as you can see, I just serged along that drawn line, and you can kind of true up the sides a little bit where you cut away the heel as well to make sure that you have a nice fluid line running down your sock. Now you've got your tentacle shape, and now you can stuff it with some fiberfill. So I used about 1.5 small bags of fiberfill. So you might want to purchase one of the larger bags so that you have enough. And you can stuff it however plump you would like. Now keep in mind, this is what's going to add the weight to the costume in addition to all of those buttons. So just be aware of, how long your socks are, how heavy it might be. You could also even add some suspenders to the costume. Why not? That's going to hold things up while you're wearing it as well. So after you stuff all 8 octopus tentacles, I just used some Wonder Clips to clip the top shut. Now, my socks also had this cuff at the top. So you can either choose to keep the cuff. If it's in a contrasting color, you might want to trim that away. But I did that after it was stuffed and after all of my buttons were attached. So here I have one tentacle with all of these buttons attached to it. And there's so many different ways you can add your buttons. You can add the large ones up at the top and go down to small ones. You can just have a free-for-all. To be quite honest, I didn't plan my button placement at all. I just started sewing them on, traveling to another area of the sock, adding another button, tying it off, traveling to the next spot. I just totally eyeballed it. Just make sure that your buttons are all on one side of the sock, right? Which is going to be the underside of all of your tentacles. So once you've done that for all 8, have a beverage of choice and relax a little bit because you deserve it. I was definitely counting down like, okay, I've got 3 tentacles left, 2 tentacles left, 1 tentacle left. It's very rewarding once you get all of those sewn. Again, add a little dab of craft glue just as some, precaution. Because as kids are walking around with this, as they bump into each other, as they start twirling around, you don't want to lose any precious buttons. All right. So now is when I closed up my sock. I waited until all the buttons were sewn, but you could certainly close up your sock before you sew all those buttons on, if it's easier for you to manage. So I decided to cut off the entire cuff because my cuff had a different sort of texture to it, as you can see on this picture. You see how the cuff has this like ribbing to it and the rest of the sock does not. So I didn't really want to see that ribbing on my octopus tentacles. But if you're a taller person or you want to add some length to your tentacles, you could certainly leave the cuff and just serge the top edge of your sock as is, just to seal up all of your fiberfill stuffing. But I just serged right across it, trimming it off as I went, and I did that for all 8 tentacles. So now you can see I have that serged edge, which also makes that edge nice and flat. So when I go to sew it to either the inside edge of a sweatshirt cuff or the lower edge of my elastic casing, I have that, flattened edge from my serger stitches that I can just sew along. So the bulk of the octopus tentacle kind of stays out of the way since I've serged it nice and flat. So if you don't have a serger, again, you could just sew across it, but I recommend giving yourself more of a seam allowance, like even up to 3/4 of an inch of a seam allowance, so that you have a flat area of the sock that doesn't have any stuffing in it that you can then place inside of the sweatshirt cuff or along your elastic casing. All right, so once we've done that, we get to place all the tentacles along our existing garment pieces. So at first I tried clipping my tentacles to the lower edge inside of the hem edge of the top that my daughter was going to wear. Now, it was pretty heavy for this lightweight, stretchy tank top. So it really pulled it down. I was a little bit nervous about that. So I thought, I should have gotten a sweatshirt or a bulkier garment to add these to. And then I thought, well, I can just add it to the skirt and it'd be so cute on the skirt and, give her a little bit more length, I guess, for the top of the costume. So once you have them all placed, I just used Wonder clips along the outer edges to make sure that, I had 4 on the front and 4 on the back. And it just was a happy accident that all 8 fit across the upper edge of that skirt perfectly. It's also stretchy material, so you could kind of stretch it a little bit if you wanted them to all sort of abut along, your edge. But you could certainly just space them equidistantly, if you're making a larger garment or something across a larger sweatshirt edge, that type of thing. So just make sure to space them equidistantly, add some Wonder clips. You don't really want to use pins here unless you're working with a more stable fabric like a sweatshirt cuff or sweatshirt hem, if you will. I just use Wonder clips to avoid snagging this type of fabric. The shirt that I used is a little bit silkier, so I didn't want to have holes or snags, which is why I used those Wonder clips. So once you have it all equidistantly spaced along your garment edge, I hand basted everything in place on the skirt. And then I actually hand sewed it because I'm a glutton for punishment. But what I did was I took the skirt waistband and I put my tentacle right side facing, see how the buttons are on the wrong side, right side facing the casing, and I sewed it along this edge with about 1/4 to 5/8 inch seam allowance. See, my serged edge is nice and flat against the edge of the casing. And then when you flip it over, it looks like the tentacle is all encased in that casing seam. But really, I have just top stitched it along the lower edge casing seam all the way across. Now, if you are super confident, you could try doing that part on your sewing machine and just kind of squishing the bulk of the tentacles away as you sew. But I just felt that it was so fragile what I was doing. So after basting, making sure that everything was together, I then just whip stitched the edge of all the tentacles to that casing seam. And it actually went by much quicker than I anticipated. And I had a little bit more control over the costume as a whole, rather than trying to get it into my sewing machine. And once you've added all the tentacles, you have your costume. Now, I was debating whether or not I should add some octopus eyes to the top that she's wearing. Of course, I would place them very favorably so that they are, more towards her torso, and create little octopus eyes. I thought that would be a really cute addition to the costume. I could even create those out of felty and do sort of a layered eye. So you have the little like octopus slit eye going. So at any rate, she did not want the eyeballs. So that is why we did not go with eyeballs. You could also add a hat, like a blue beanie or something like this, and put the octopus eyes up there. And that would be really cute as well. So maybe I'll still do that because I think she might enjoy that. We'll see. We'll see if I can create a hat. And actually, we have a great free hat pattern at sulky.com to create a beanie just using some fleece. And it comes together really easy. It's like 4 seams. And there's a little cuff on the hat. So maybe on the cuff, I could add the little octopus eyes. And I think that would just really tie the costume together. So, or maybe even use some of the leftover big buttons as the eyeballs and do like layered buttons. So you have, the white part of the octopus eye and the black part of the octopus eye. We'll see how that goes. I might have to add to the costume now. You see, we come together here and we get great ideas as we're moving along. It's never done. It's never completed. All right, so I'll let you know if I end up making the hat, and I'll post some updated pictures of our cute little octopus. But I just think it's a really great idea if you are kind of overwhelmed with making an entire costume, because I'll be quite honest, sometimes I head to the pattern area of the fabric store and I'm like, wow, by the time I make this entire Darth Vader costume, I'm in it for like $400, and my son or daughter or whoever is going to wear it for Halloween once, and what a shame, even though I love the process and I definitely want to make it. So sometimes I like to get a little craftier, if you will. And, it really helps with problem solving with your kids as well. If you, or grandkids or nieces, nephews, what have you, if you involve them in the process of making their costume, and whether you're working from a pattern or you're trying to make something up out of your head, it's a great idea to have them, what do you want to be for Halloween, and brainstorm. And then how do you think it should look? Maybe have them draw a picture of it and then say, well, here's what I think we could use. What do you think we could use? Maybe we start out with socks. Do you think that'll work? And just kind of work it out with them. It really helps them become a part of the process, whether they're too young to sew or help you or not. They could pick out buttons. They could stuff the socks, involve them in the process, and they are going to love Halloween and love sewing and start to want to become little creators themselves. And it's a great bonding and teaching moment with them too. So I really encourage you to think outside of the pattern envelope and come up with these things where you can use everyday household items. You can get them involved in that process. And, they might come up with a great idea that you would have never thought of, like putting the eyeballs on a hat or adding a cute treat bucket to, a costume that maybe they've already purchased to wear. Something like that, to where they have a little bit more ownership of it, becomes more unique. That was always my thing, is if you buy a costume on the rack, 3 other kids might be the same thing as you, right? Which, hey, there's nothing wrong with that, but it is really cool to add your own twist, even if it's something that you've purchased off the rack or in a bag. So, really great ideas. So Elaine has a great idea here. She says, when my son was very young, he and I created a pickle costume. It was a big hit. That is so cute. Love it. Love it. Lots of people saying it's a cute idea involving kids. They have creative ideas. Everyone wants to add eyes. Okay. So the eyes in a glow-in-the-dark thread. Yes, sulky glowy would be really great for adding eyes. Ooh, and actually, there are some embroidery designs I've seen out there that are eyeballs. Seriously. They're used to make things like, sleep masks or just costume masks. I've totally seen them. So maybe I can find something suitable and I can embroider the beanie or the beanie fabric using maybe an eyeball design. That would make it really a lot quicker and easier, especially if I wanted to use that glowy. So that's a really great idea. All right, let's see. Noreen says, I made my daughter a Dumbo elephant costume one year, used fake fur fabric, and even stuffed the 2-foot-long trunk. The big ears looked great. The trunk was so long, she tripped over it. Oh, that's so cute. I love it. Just thinking about it. See, you could maybe make an elephant mask and use a tube sock to make the elephant trunk. So you can definitely get creative with a costume like that. Love it. Leslie says, my mom would create costumes from crepe paper. That is amazing. And yes, I hope it doesn't rain when you have something like that. But I guess when it rains on Halloween, it doesn't matter what costume you're wearing because you're covered up in rain gear. It's such a bummer when you have a really great costume and then it snows on Halloween and you got to put your winter coat over the top of it to go trick-or-treating. But these days, there's lots of opportunities to wear your costume out, not just for trick-or-treating. There's trunk or treats, there's local parades, just having a little Halloween party or a Halloween sleepover with a couple of friends or grandkids is a great idea to get a little bit more mileage out of those great handmade costumes that we all spend so much time and energy and materials creating. So I hope that this inspires you to use it as a springboard for other costume ideas or make this exact costume for yourself or somebody that is close to you. All right, just an update. Let's see. I guess in some browsers, the website is working. It's just running a little bit slow right now, but rest assured we are working on that. And if you still want to sign up for that mystery quilt along, which starts on Friday, that's over at sewingonline.sulky.com. And that site is up and running. So you can go ahead and be sure to register for that. You will get the full quilt pattern with purchase of the event. So the pattern is a $19.99 value and the event is $19.99. So you're getting all this additional help to work your way through that quilt pattern with purchase of the event. And once our site is up and running, be sure to check out all these great deals for our Halloween and fall holiday hullabaloo sale, up to 50% off on lots of stuff that I talked about today. So your candy corn clutch kit and your Halloween potions palette and the Twilly pack, all those things are on sale. And again, our special gift for one lucky viewer who is watching, commenting, sharing out today's live stream, one lucky viewer will be chosen at random to win our Halloween machine embroidery palette, the Halloween Potions, which comes with 10 spools of sulky rayon thread and 6 patch designs in 3 sizes. All right. So thanks to everybody for joining me today. Thanks for putting your questions and comments in the live chat. I appreciate this time that we get to spend together. Please enjoy the quilt along on Friday. I can't wait to see what you all think of the first post and how you work your way through that first block lesson. I think it's going to be really fun. Make sure to grab up your So Good Supply Roll-Up Sew-Along Kit as well. That comes with a full video tutorial and the pattern to create your supply roll-up. You can grab that at sulky.com, and this is at a special deal for a limited time as well. All right. I think I covered everything for this week. So I will see you all next Tuesday for another So What? And I hope you enjoy getting your houses all spookified for Halloween and getting in the Halloween spirit. So I'll see you next Tuesday for another So What?